Andrei Vasilevskiy was a late scratch from Tuesday's game. The Lightning ended up falling 4-1 to the Chicago Blackhawks after scoring the game's opening goal. We'll talk about some of the frustrations from the Tuesday night loss and the Lightning's new quarter century team that was just revealed.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber welcoming all of you in here to Locked On Lightning and giving you all one big thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is going to talk about last night's game. Once we start things off, 4-1 loss against the Chicago Blackhawks after Tampa Bay got the game's opening goal thanks to Brayden Point, with about 3.5 minutes gone by in the first period. Brayden Point had his first goal in the last 4 games, didn't score on the road trip. And it's good to get him back on the score sheet, one of the leading goal scorers in the NHL. But after that, it was all Blackhawks. Connor Bedard with honestly one of the nastiest shots I think I've ever seen on the power play at the very end of said power play for the first goal for Chicago. About 8 minutes later, Landon Slaggert put another one in. Ryan Donato got a rebound in the third, and then Teuvo Teravainen took the empty netter and sealed it for the Blackhawks. But I got to give a little bit of credit to the Lightning at the end. They pulled their goalie early. They were down 3-1 with around 4 minutes left when Jonas Johansson left the game. And it took the Blackhawks about 2-3 minutes to score. So good job for the Lightning for a while keeping that puck out of their empty net. But, there's only, I think, so much you can do when it comes to an empty net goal in a team that had just been winning the offensive chances. But this was another game where the Tampa Bay Lightning outshot their opponent, and the shots just didn't fall for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Brayden Point, who had the only shot that did fall in for Tampa, talked about the Lightning's frustration and their attempts to score.
I don't know what really you can say. I mean, the goalies are good. The fact that we're getting looks is a good sign. The guys are making saves or pucks not bouncing our way or whatever's going on. But I think the guys are trying. We're trying to score. But I think that the fact that we are getting looks is definitely positive.
And honestly, Brayden was saying a lot of the things that I was thinking, because during the game, I'm watching and I'm just kind of racking my brain to try and figure out what's going on. Like, why this month or even this game, the Lightning have had a relatively difficult time scoring for the most part. You come out of a 2-0 loss, the first shootout loss of the season, the first shootout loss for the Lightning in over a year, I believe. And then you put up one goal. The Lightning have put up one goal or less in now 5 games over the course of January. So that's one every 3 games to this point. They play their 16th game of the month tomorrow against the Kings. But, because I'm looking at the Lightning offense and I'm not seeing them doing a lot of things wrong. They're not taking stupid shots. They're taking pretty good shots for the most part. They're working the puck around to get their looks. They're cycling in the zone. I mean, they're doing what they can. Just the shots have not been falling. And even John Cooper mentioned that it's just the team making the opposing goalies look good. But Cooper also talked about the Lightning's need for practice as they try to get out of this funk and get back to being the best offensive team in the league.
We had ample chances, especially in that first period, to not only get the lead like we did, but extend it. And for whatever reason, we're making every goalie we play, look like a Vezina candidate. And so that gets a little bit frustrating. And then I think we get frustrated that we aren't scoring. We're probably in the first third of the year, guys were scoring those at will. And so not only are you trying to overcome the other team, you're trying to overcome your own mental psyche at that point. So, that's just something that's probably a little bit of human nature.
And the Lightning do have ample chances at home for the next couple weeks as well. The Lightning have now 4 games left on their 5-game homestand after opening it with a loss to Chicago. Their last home game of this particular homestand is on Thursday the 6th, the back end of a alternating back-to-back against the Ottawa Senators. So the Lightning do have the next couple weeks at home. They're going to be able to get their practices in and work on some of the things that have been troubling them over the past few weeks. And everyone was talking about it after the game. John Cooper mentioned it. Ryan McDonough mentioned it. Braden Point mentioned it. Just the fact that the Lightning really haven't had that much chance to practice. When you're on the road, you get time for morning skate before the game mostly, and that's usually about it. And the Lightning not only have, frankly, just not had that much time for practice, they have not had more than 2 days off the entire month of January, and playing just about every other game, with the majority of their games this month coming away from Amalie Arena. So that's enough of an adjustment. And, just coming back, even Coop said that for the most part this season, the Lightning have had success, but the first game coming home after a long road trip is always just a tough adjustment. And this was one of the rare times that the Lightning, needed to make that adjustment and needed to and struggle with it a little bit, because if you look back at the schedule, the Lightning are historically solid this season coming off of road trips. Already this month, they had a loss to Anaheim. 2 days after that, they beat Carolina at home. They lose to Boston, big in Boston. 2 days after that, they beat Anaheim at home in a shootout. So that's just this month, and we can keep going back, but I can assure you it has commonly happened for Tampa. They're usually quite good at taking their first game to start their homestand, but it just wasn't to be today. I don't think it was, I don't think it was even the fact that Vasilevskiy was out, which we'll talk about more in the next segment. But Jonas Johansson did okay for the most part. There were just a couple of tough shots coming in. There are some good chances that the Lightning had that didn't go in. And that was especially the case on the power play, where the Lightning have been one of the better teams in the league, but did not converted a power play goal in their last 2 or 3 games, 0 for 3 on the man advantage last night against Chicago. But on the first power play, Darren Radish had to stop a breakaway from the Blackhawks. Mitchell Chaffee had a couple of really good chances in the opening minute of each of the Lightning's first 2 power plays that got stopped. I mean, there were so many chances the Lightning had in front of net that just didn't end up going their way. And, you just see, it seemed like every other minute you just look around and see a scrum of guys in front of the net just trying to dig the puck out and put it in. But it just wasn't to be for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I got to give some credit to the Blackhawks, particularly their fan base, because I have not heard another visiting team's fans as loud as the Blackhawks were last night. So respect to the Chicago Blackhawks fans, because you guys certainly travel very, very well. But one little just fun facts about the game last night, maybe to be used in some e-bug trivia later on. But the Tampa Bay Lightning did dress an emergency backup goalie for the first time, with Andrei Vasilevskiy being ruled out earlier in the day due to an illness. It was in the afternoon, according to John Cooper, where he was taken out of the game for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Kyle Konen dressed for his 4th NHL game as the emergency backup goalie. He is now dressed for 4 NHL games, 3 of them at Amalie Arena, 2 of them this year, and 2 of them as a Bull in his NHL career. One of those happened this season, last night. On November 7th, the Tampa Bay Lightning played the Philadelphia Flyers in a game they ended up losing, and Kyle Konen dressed as an emergency backup goalie for Fedotov and the Flyers in a game that Philadelphia unfortunately ended up beating Tampa Bay. So this year, when Kyle Konen is the backup goalie, the Lightning unfortunately are 0-2. But honestly, I think it's kind of cool that the emergency backup has dressed for two different teams in the same stadium in the same season. So a little bit of fun fact. And big ups to Kyle Conan for helping back up Jonas Johansson. But Jonas Johansson, the backup of Andrei Vasilevskiy, played admirably in the loss against Chicago. Can we blame the loss on Johansson being in the net instead of Andrei Vasilevskiy? And let's take it a little bit further. Where would the Bolts be without Andrei Vasilevskiy? Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature on FanDuel lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's just icing on the cake. So download the FanDuel app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That is FanDuel.com. So bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. And if you're looking to bet on Lightning and maybe bet on some hockey, as of yesterday, before the Lightning game started, FanDuel had Nikita Kucherov at plus 1,100 odds to win the Hart Trophy ahead of the game. That might be a bet you might want to sink your teeth in. And we're back here on Locked On Lightning, and I want to be very clear that this is an almost completely hypothetical segment, because Andrei Vasilevskiy was ruled out with an illness. Hopefully, he'll be back for tomorrow's game against the Kings. More than likely, he'll be back for Saturday's game against the Islanders. So there is no indication that Vasilevskiy is expected to miss extended time. That's why I wanted to just qualify that. Just so I don't want to worry any Bolts fans. I know I'm the kind of person who thinks the Lightning season really does hinge on their goaltender. I might be a little biased because when I played hockey, I was usually a netminder myself. And I believe that the goalie is the most important position in the game. And that could have been a factor in Tuesday night's loss for the Tampa Bay Lightning, as Andrei Vasilevskiy, who had started every single home game for the Tampa Bay Lightning since returning on November 24th of last season from an injury that had him miss the first month and a half of the NHL season. He's not expected to miss extended time, but the first game at home this year without Vasilevskiy is a loss. Now, it's not like this is the first home loss of the season for Tampa. Tampa is a solid 15-7-1, the second the second best winning percentage and the third most wins just in their division in terms of the Lightning's home record this season. So they've been really solid at home. And, you know, I could see a lot of people wanting to point fingers at Jonas Johansson for that Lightning loss. But, you know, you outshoot the team by almost double, 35-20 in favor of the Lightning in terms of shots. They outshot the Blackhawks in every single period, including a 15-6 margin in the third, which was their largest margin in terms of goal scoring for Tampa Bay. But, you know, we talked about some of the goal scoring, and that has certainly been a cause of frustration for the Tampa Bay Lightning, according to head coach John Cooper.
There's not a magic potion of what you're going to say that's going to make anybody feel better. They just walk right out of the game and they feel that they played well enough to win, and we didn't win. And so your guys are frustrated. At times you have to let them breathe, take a breath, circle back tomorrow, get to have a practice that we haven't had. I mean, I think we've had 2 in the whole month, so it'll be a time for us to get together. And the other thing is too, is when you go on these extended long road trips, you know, a week plus or whatever, the first game back's always tough. And we've actually had a little success with it, and tonight we didn't. So it's what happens in a 2-game season. And this is, you have to grind through this. This kind of shows you, what we're made of. So we'll see.
What also shows the team what they're made of is how well they can perform with their backup goaltender. And for the most part this season, the Lightning have been solid under Jonas Johansson. He has backed up Vasilevskiy primarily on back-to-backs now in 13 games this season, where he's a respectable 12, 6, and 5, including one shutout. And honestly, for a good bit of the game, it really seemed like another shutout was coming from Johansson. The Lightning were owning the amount of scoring chances. They were getting better shots than the Blackhawks, but it was really just an absolutely nasty goal by Connor Bedard on the power at the end of the power play within the last 10 seconds of the power play in that second period where that goal ended up being scored. And that brings me to my first point. I honestly am not sure that Andrei Vasilevskiy would have helped all that much in this game. Obviously, one of those goals was an empty netter. So, that obviously has nothing to do with whichever goalie is in net. The first goal, that goal from Connor Bedard, is a goal literally anywhere. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a crazier angle and just a more perfectly placed shot. That was top cheddar to a T. I mean, couldn't have gotten more in the top corner from Bedard. Vasilevskiy's not saving that. A brick wall taped to the front of the net might not even save that. I mean, it was just honestly one of the most impressive goals I think I've seen. And it solidifies that I think Connor Bedard is going to end up being a star in this league. But, I don't think Vasily's going to save that one. I think if any of the two Lightning goalies has a chance of making a spectacular save one, it's Vasilevskiy. But that was a goal. That was just a really darn good goal by Connor Bedard. So that's an easy 1-1 no matter what. The go-ahead goal, though, that might have been a stop that Vasilevskiy could have made because Johansson was close to it. He had his glove almost done. Glove in the right position, just a little bit too low. The shot from Slaggert appeared to just skim the top side of Johansson's glove as he was just a little bit late rotating that glove hand to the puck and wasn't able to stop it. Vasilevskiy, the big cat's a little bit quicker. He might have been able to snag that. The third goal, Donato's goal, coming in off a rebound. I mean, that was just a hard shot from Jones right off the back wall, literally right to Donato. Nothing Johansson could do. I mean, that was just bad puck luck. That might have happened on Vasilevskiy too. So, I mean, could Vasilevskiy have had an impact on this game? I think absolutely. Would he have? I don't know. I mean, if you take the exact same shots with Vasilevskiy in net and Johansson in net, maybe the Lightning get a little extra confidence with their starting goalie and, the best goaltender in franchise history in the back of the net. Maybe it helps them score a couple more goals. Maybe Vasilevskiy is quick on the rebound and can get back to it. But, I mean, at the very least, it's still 1-1 without Vasilevskiy, and the Lightning just still need to put more goals in net. Even if Vazzy would have made that second stop, the third one, maybe not. I think with Vasilevskiy in there, exact same number of shots taken, it might be 3-1, including the empty net. So this is hopefully something we're not going to have to worry about. Vazzy is not expected to miss extended time. Certainly hopeful he'll be back on Thursday, but you don't really know. I think overall, though, the Lightning would not have as good of a chance to be in the playoffs as they do right now without Andrei Vasilevskiy. I think he is the most important player on the team. Nikita Kucherov earlier in the year said that Vazzy has been the best player on the Lightning team this season, and I agree. I think he's been really consistent in the back of the net. He's kept the Lightning in a lot of games, and he's a goalie who can really increase his skills, can really the more shots that he faces, the better he seems to do. And obviously that's not a template that you'd like to see from the Lightning defense, but it's always good to know that you've got, a surefire brick wall in the back of your net. And that is what Andrei Vasilevskiy is. I mean, he is definitely the key to this Lightning team. And even Tampa, we've seen in recent years the Lightning have some chances to play without Vasilevskiy and to show their mettle with their backup goaltender, like the start of last season. Vasilevskiy missed almost the first 20 games, and the Lightning went 9-7-4 without Vasilevskiy. Still technically a losing record, but respectable. Still have them in a really solid playoff spot. And the Lightning, with Vasilevskiy back, took care of business and got back to the playoffs. That's what I expect to happen again this year. Vasilevskiy's going to come back during this homestand, hopefully before the Senators games. But Vasilevskiy coming back can only mean good things for the Lightning. Hopefully he won't have to miss too much time with his illness. Again, I think the Lightning would be a solid team without Vazzy. Would they be in the playoffs? Would they be in a playoff position right now? Maybe not. But there is definitely no questioning that Andrei Vasilevskiy increases the Tampa Bay Lightning chances of winning by a significant margin. And one team that would increase this Lightning team's chances of winning is the quarter century team. The NHL has been making quarter century teams and releasing them every day of January. As we're in a quarter century now in this millennium. We're going to break down the full reveal of that quarter century team, since I predicted my Lightning quarter century team last week. We'll see what I got wrong, which wasn't that much, surprisingly. But we'll take a look next. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. I remember the energy and excitement of the Bucks playoff game that I was at last season against the Eagles, and I'm looking forward to making new memories this year. Game Time has a feature called Game Time Picks, a brand new feature that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I recently used Game Time Picks to find tickets for the last Bucks game of the NFL season, and browsing through the deals was simple. I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue, and the Super Deal was especially impressive, offering the best value for the event. The app's features like seat views before you buy and all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout made the experience smooth and reliable. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee gave me peace of mind. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, as I mentioned, the NHL has been releasing quarter century teams for each NHL squad over the month of January. And a little while ago, I predicted what I thought would be the Tampa Bay Lightning quarter century team. And I'm pleased to tell you guys, I got most of it right. For the first line, my prediction was Marty St. Louis, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Mikhail Sergachev, and Andrei Vasilevskiy. I got 4 out of 5 of those right, with Mikhail Sergachev being the only incorrect one. Dan Boyle, who I actually had predicted on the second line, was in there instead of Mikhail Sergachev. And that is, for the first team, the only thing we're really going to talk about, because I think the other 5 players were really obvious. Andrei Vasilevskiy is the best goalie in Lightning history. There is no other question for who is going to be in goal on that Lightning team. Victor Hedman was a very obvious one. Captain. No Bolt has played more games in a Lightning uniform. He has more assists than any Lightning player, though it is just one ahead of Nikita Kucherov after the loss against Chicago. Kucherov, another obvious member of the team, along with Steven Stamkos and Marty St. Louis, three highest scoring Lightning players ever. So, yeah, I mean, easy decision. I don't think that was ever a debate for those guys. Mikhail Sergachev on the first team, for me, I think part of that was recency bias. The other part of it was Sergey, who I think is one of the bigger busts, one of the bigger snubs, from this team. Mikhail Sergachev is the second highest scoring defenseman in Lightning history behind Victor Hedman. And behind Jan Rutta, Eric Chernak, Ryan McDonough, and Victor Hedman, Sergachev has, I think, the 4th highest plus-minus of any Lightning defenseman ever, higher than all of the than half the defensemen that are on this team, including Dan Boyle, who beat him out. I do understand Boyle on that first line, a key defender for that Stanley Cup team. So, like, it makes sense. I'm not, I'm not upset about getting that one wrong. I think, again, recency bias might have played a role. And I might have looked a lot more at the stats because I was a child when Dan Boyle was playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think that's fair, though. I think definitely Boyle plays an important role in Lightning history. He was also on the Sharks quarter century team, by the way. But I think Boyle's a pretty solid choice. The line two forwards I got as well. Dan Boyle was supposed to be on my second line, and Ryan McDonough replaced him on that line too. But the line two forwards, three more obvious choices. Braden Point, Vinny Lecavalier, and Brad Richards. Again, I think picking the forwards on the Lightning quarter century team might have been the easiest part. Pretty clear to see who the six best forwards in Lightning history are. I think there are a couple other guys that you can mention might have had a shot, but when it comes to Marty, Stammer, Cooch, Brad Richards, Lecavalier, and Braden Point, I think not just in terms of the importance of the franchise, but in terms of what they have done for the team offensively, Stanley Cups. I don't think there's any other option. One can argue just on the Stanley Cup season, Ruslan Fedotenko, I think he had an incredible Stanley Cup run in 2004, but obviously the length of his Lightning career certainly wasn't enough to put him on that. And, you can look at guys like Andrew Chuck, who might be the only question. Maybe you switch him on for Brad Richards, maybe. But, I think as a player, statistically, Richards, I think, had a better career. Just Andrew Chuck was Stanley Cup captain. So that might play a factor. Clearly didn't for the NHL voters there, but again, not a problem. I think the forward's the easiest decision. Ryan McDonough, I actually was thinking of putting on. I was pretty close to having the defense correct. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I think I might have put Pavel Kabina on the first line instead of Dan Boyle, mainly just for the tenure and the fact that this was the team that Kabina, I think, is primarily associated with. Might not be the case for Dan Boyle, who played, just as much of his career away, more of his career away from the Lightning than he did with the Lightning. But, I think Boyle's certainly the better defenseman than Kabina, and, the undrafted to Stanley Cup champ story is certainly a good one. But yeah, I think the defense could have been interchangeable except for McDonough. He certainly belongs on that second line. And honestly, I like choosing him over, Mikhail Sergachev, who really could have been the fifth defender on this team. But I like McDonough there mainly because he came back, the two Stanley Cups, obviously a big thing. And he was another guy on two different teams on the Rangers quarter century first team as well. But I'm really happy to see McDonough get back on that. Coming back to the Lightning, I think certainly played a factor because this season, even though he's 35, he's having an incredible year defensively, one of the leaders in plus minus in the Lightning all time, and one of the league leaders in plus minus among defenders for the NHL this season. So he certainly deserves it. The one big question was the goalie. Ben Bishop over Nikolai Khabibulin. I think statistically, if you look at the stats and compare the regular season stats between Bishop and Khabibulin, Bishops are better, but it's not by such a huge margin that it should outweigh Khabibulin's Stanley Cup. 5 shutouts and 16 wins as the Lightning goaltender throughout the entirety of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2004 that ended in the Lightning's first ever Stanley Cup championship. That's probably the only change that I would make on this quarter century team because McDonough coming back, I think, is big. He never really wanted to leave the Lightning, and you take those 2 seasons in Nashville, put them on Tampa, and it certainly would help the Lightning. No disrespect to Sergachev. I think he certainly could have deserved an honorable mention for sure. But, I understand why McDonough's on there. Bishop over Khabibulin doesn't make as much sense to me only because of the playoffs. I think that needs to matter. They both played 5 seasons for the Lightning. And again, I think Bishop made one more all-star team, and there might have been a couple little things that he had accolades-wise that Khabibulin didn't, but, the lack of a Stanley Cup and Khabibulin with 5 shutouts in that Stanley Cup playoffs, I think was enough to put him on that second line. So that's the only change I'd make for the Lightning quarter-century team. Line 1, Marty St. Louis, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Dan Boyle, Andrei Vasilevskiy. Line 2, Brad Richards, Vinny Lecavalier, Braden Point, Ryan McDonough, Pavel Kubina, and Ben Bishop. Couple honorable mentions, I should say, though. Andre Palat, always a fan favorite. Freddie Modine had been here for a long time, and Alex Killorn as well, who was the highest ranking goal scorer in terms of points. He had 466, which is eighth all time among Lightning players. He was the highest ranking point scorer that didn't make the team. Brian Bradley, if he had played in this century, I think would have been a shoo-in. But he has not played for the Lightning since 2000. So I think that's the only reason he was off the team. But I think he's someone that's just worth mentioning because he's an important player in the Lightning history. But I think other than Bishop instead of Khabibulin, I like the way the quarter-century team shapes up for the Lightning. I think it shows a good picture of the successful players and the Lightning's success once you look at those players a bit closer of the Lightning over this quarter century. But that is going to do it for this show. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. So for your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, please subscribe. Please give us a like, a follow. We really appreciate your guys' support, and we do the show for you, so we hope that you enjoy it. And thank you again for enjoying today's show. We'll have another one for you to preview the Kings game tomorrow. Until then, have a great day, and go Bolts.